What's up, guys? All right, so what's up? I just want to, testify to God's faithfulness in the past couple months of my life when I wasn't really faithful to Him. Despite my weakness, He was faithful to me. He was there for me. And I just want to say, okay, so I'm going to share a verse with you. It's Romans 1:21. It says, "For although they knew God, they did not." Although they knew God, they did not honor Him as God or give thanks to Him, but they became futile in their thinking, and their foolish hearts were darkened. So, and then this is exactly like the Galatians. This is me. I knew God, and I slowly became futile and foolish in my thinking. Right? I was super excited, and then it just kind of all went downhill from there. I noticed that I lost this fire, and that I didn't have this vigor that I used to have. I didn't have the resolve that I need, right? And I just gave in to temptation and became foolish. And I let sin enter and overcome my mind and my heart. And whenever the opportunities came to sin, without fail, every time, just take them. Just every time, without fail. And I was dating this girl. Out of my foolishness, I opened myself up to a lot of temptation I couldn't handle. I didn't have the right accountability in my life. And, made a lot of mistakes, stupid ones, But the best part is that the Lord took me back, He continually pursued me, even when I wanted nothing to do with Him. It was great. And then I met MBJ. I don't know where he is. I can't see anything. He's somewhere. But he started mentoring me, and then in these past couple months, and God has really just started working in my heart again, and I can just see all these changes, in my life, and just the way that I'm thinking, and I know where my heart is, and I'm working hard every day to remember my identity in Christ. And the coolest thing is that He loves me, God loves me, and even though I don't see myself as spotless, He does, right? I think I'm really stupid these past couple months. He thinks I'm spotless. So I just want to close with this verse. It's 2 Timothy 2:13. This kind of sums up my life, basically. If we remain faithless, He remains faithful, for He cannot deny Himself. So, all right. So I just want to pray real quick. All right, Father, I think you could be here today. Just pray that, Dan's words will speak to us, Lord. And just pray that even when we're faithless, Lord, that you'll just remain faithful to us. Thank you. In your name we pray. Amen.
What if I told you Jesus came to abolish religion? What if I told you voting Republican really wasn't His mission? What if I told you Republican doesn't automatically mean Christian, and just because you call some people blind doesn't automatically give you vision? I mean, if religion is so great, why has it started so many wars? Why does it build huge churches but fails to feed the poor? Tell single moms God doesn't love them if they've ever had a divorce, but in the Old Testament, God actually calls religious people whores. Religion might preach grace, but another thing they practice. Tend to ridicule God's people. They did it to John the Baptist. They can't fix their problems, and so they just mask it, not realizing religion's like spraying perfume on a casket. See, the problem with religion is it never gets to the core. It's just behavior modification, like a long list of chores. Like, let's dress up the outside, make it look nice and neat. But it's funny, that's what they used to do to mummies while the corpse rots underneath. Now, I ain't judging. I'm just saying, quit putting on a fake look. Because there's a problem if people only know that you're a Christian by your Facebook. I mean, in every other aspect of life, you know that logic's unworthy. It's like saying you play for the Lakers just because you bought a jersey. See, this was me too, but no one seemed to be on to me. Acting like a church kid while addicted to pornography. See, on Sunday I'd go to church, but Saturday getting faded, acting if I was simply created to just have sex and get wasted. See, I spent my whole life building this facade of neatness, but now that I know Jesus, I boast in my weakness. Because if grace is water, then the church should be an ocean. It's not a museum for good people, it's a hospital for the broken, which means I don't have to hide my failure, I don't have to hide my sin, because it doesn't depend on me, it depends on Him. See, because when I was God's enemy, and certainly not a fan, He looked down and said, I want that man. Which is why Jesus hated religion, and for it He called them fools. Don't you see so much better than just following some rules? Now let me clarify. I love the church, I love the Bible, and yes, I believe in sin. But if Jesus came to your church, would they actually let Him in? See, remember He was called a glutton and a drunkard by religious men. But the Son of God never supports self-righteousness, not now, not then. Now back to the point, one thing is vital to mention. How Jesus and religion are on opposite spectrums. See, one's the work of God, but one's a man-made invention. See, one is the cure, but the other's the infection. See, because religion says do, Jesus says done. Religion says slave, Jesus says son. Religion puts you in bondage, while Jesus sets you free. Religion makes you blind, but Jesus makes you see. And that's why religion and Jesus are two different clans. Religion is man searching for God, Christianity is God searching for man. Which is why salvation is freely mine, and forgiveness is my own. Not based on my merits, but Jesus' obedience alone. Because He took the crown of thorns and the blood dripped down His face. He took what we all deserved. I guess that's why you call it grace. And while being murdered, He yelled, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. Because when He was dangling on that cross, He was thinking of you. And He absorbed all your sin and He buried it in the tomb, which is why I'm kneeling at the cross saying, come on, there's room. So for religion, no, I hate it. In fact, I literally resent it. Because when Jesus said, it is finished, I believe He meant it.
All right, how are you guys? This is the fall break crowd. Yeah, that's kind of what I was worried about. Need a little more. Hey guys, here's the deal. How many of you are feeling a little tired? Some of you walked in today and you were looking really tired. Now, I don't think you have to feel bad for me, but I'm just going to tell you a little something here. You should feel bad for me, and I am more tired than any of you. You know what time I got up this morning? 3:30, close. And you know what woke me up? No, it wasn't Adam. Adam wasn't with me. It was Lee snoring, because I was in a conference with Lee and Amy, and Lee was in my room, and I didn't even need an alarm, because Lee's snoring woke me up right at 3, so that was kind of nice. And I think, hopefully this video that you guys just watched kind of tied in a little bit what we're doing here in Galatians. I hope it did, because we've been trying to talk to you guys for the last 4 or 5 weeks about how it isn't about religion, and how the book of Galatians actually sets us free from a lot of those religious duties. We've also been talking a lot about the gospel, an awful lot about the gospel, so we hope you guys are getting a better understanding of that. But I think one thing you might not realize, that's what we're going to touch on this morning, because Paul, in the first part of his letters, he gets real theological, and then the last part gets practical. And so we're going to look at some of the practical stuff today. We're going to look at what impact does the gospel make on your relationships. Now, some of you are like, well, I already know that, or this doesn't really apply to me. So what we're going to do is we're going to see what you know about that. So the person next to you, real quick, tell them what difference does the gospel make in your relationships. If you got nothing, say, I got nothing. Okay? And then you need to pay extra close attention. But go ahead, take a minute and do that. Okay. All right, let's get going. Some of you had some stuff, some of you had nothing. That's okay. We still love you. We're glad you're here. We know some of you are like, man, I just got out of school and I get a break right now, so I don't want to think about questions and stuff like that. But this is a really, really important one. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up, if you got a Bible, take it out in Galatians 5, verse 25. We're looking at Galatians 5:25 through 6:1 and 2. And if you don't have a Bible, you can just go get one without distracting people if you really want to look at it, and maybe you got it on your iPhone or something like that too. So, Galatians 5:25 should be up on the screen as well, and it says, if we live by the Spirit, let us also keep in step with the Spirit. So, MBJ, if you were here last week, kind of talked a little bit about that. What does it mean to keep in step with the Spirit? And that's kind of like a daily crucifixion for our sinful desires and then like a daily heart adoption of just saying, I want to have the desires of Christ. I want my heart to adopt the things that are really important to Jesus. And so it's like every day we have the opportunity to follow our sinful desires or to kind of follow the desires of Christ. Now, that walking in the Spirit, if we live in step with the Spirit, it helps us do verse 26, which is not become conceited. Now, some of you, when you hear conceited, what do you naturally think of? You usually think of a beautiful person who is all about their looks. Like you think of somebody like Joe, who's got like a California boy looks, and like, not that he's conceited, but just he has good looks. And so you're like, well, that's what a conceited person is. And I'm hoping that this morning, you're going to see this word in a completely different way, and it's going to challenge you. It's going to make you kind of look at your life and say, whoa, I've never really thought of myself as a conceited person, but maybe I am. And newsflash, in case any of you are wondering this, it really hit Dan as he was preparing this. Like, I don't think I've ever been under as much conviction in a message as this one. So yeah, it was fun putting this one together. All right, so the word conceit, that has its use here in Galatians 5:26, is talking about actually empty of honor. That's what the word means. So when it says conceited, it's not necessarily talking about somebody who thinks they're good looking and they're proud of that. It's saying you're empty of honor. And so conceit is a deep insecurity where you're trying to kind of fill your life with honor. You're trying to get other people to honor you because you don't feel like you're getting enough honor. It's almost like you're honor deprived. So you're like, you know what, in my conversations, I am going to try to get honor anywhere I can because I feel like I'm missing out on some honor. I feel like I need it. Now, some of you know that I kind of hate horses, but some of you don't know the background to why I hate horses. There's a reason. See, in my family, when I grew up, it was all about stupid horses, okay? And I can call them stupid because I've had every kind of horse, Appaloosas, thoroughbreds, you know, whatever, dumb ponies, race horses, every kind of horse. Okay, they're all really dumb, okay? And in my family, they kind of like worship the horses. So my sisters were really great. They would ride around their little ring and collect ribbons and get trophies and all this stuff. And my parents were like, yay, you rode the horse around the ring. Let's, give you all this honor. So what did that do to me? I was honor deprived. And so like I'm playing my sports, getting trophies. Nobody's giving me any honor. So like I'm mad at the stupid horses because they're taking my honor, and my sisters. So one day my sister's riding around the ring and she's got her nice form on her horse and she's all proper, back straight and everything. And everybody's cheering like, oh man, it's just so beautiful because she's like the English riding, and oh, it's so nice. And I'm like, what's the big deal? She's riding a dumb horse around the ring. Anybody can do that. And so I don't remember who it was, a cousin, a friend, just somebody that was annoyed with me, just said, well, why don't you go in there and do it? I said, I will. I said, let's stop this. I was like 12 years old. I said, let's stop this little lesson. I said, let me get on the horse. I'll show everybody how easy this is. And so I hop on that horse, and this was no little pony. This was like a strong, muscular thoroughbred. And I get on the horse, and horses can tell. They can tell if you don't like them. And instantly, the horse didn't like me either. And so as soon as I got on that thing, and I didn't know that if like you kick back with your heels back by its butt, it'll make the horse do really bad things. And so like to get it going, I went like that, and I kind of kicked it, back there. And I don't know, it was just like obviously a tender spot because the horse just started bucking nonstop. And so I'm in this ring. The horse isn't running. It's just bucking all around the ring. And I'm like holding on. And then, right where everyone was standing, there happened to be a big mud puddle. And what do you think happened? Got bucked off face first in the mud. And it was like the total walk of shame back to my house. And I never really had a desire to hop on a horse again. I think I did. But that's why I have this deep-seated hatred for horses, because they were stealing honor. And what happened to me is the same thing that happens sometimes to you guys. When you feel like somebody's stealing honor in your life, you're trying to prove that you should have honor, we end up getting humiliated because we try too hard to get our own honor. And we're trying to steal honor sometimes from others. The word conceited
It's actually when it talks about provoking and envying, because that's what it says, do not become conceited, provoking one another, envying one another. Provoke, and I thought this was interesting, talk about a little convicting. Prokaleo, which is the Greek word, it actually means competitive. So it means competitive. Now I know, some of you are like, well, I'm not a competitive person, so I can check out here. But you are, because when you think of competitive, here's what you think of. We all think of sports, right? We think of, okay, Dan's obviously super competitive at sports, so this is a great verse for him. But I'm willing to bet each of you are competitive in different areas. Some of you are competitive with somebody in schoolwork, like you want to be the tops in your class, and this annoying person keeps getting all A's, and so they're kind of, annoying to you. You're competitive with them. Some of you have a sibling rivalry. There is somebody in your own family you are competitive with. And you might not admit it, but you are. I have a very sweet daughter who doesn't have a competitive bone in her body, but you get her against her sister in anything, and it will be intense. She turns into a very, very competitive girl, and it's just not even in her nature. My wife is not a competitive person, but if she goes against me in anything, she becomes competitive. Tyler back there, if you've met Tyler, one of the nicest dudes, doesn't really have a competitive bone in his body. If he plays a sport against me, there's just like these competitive juices will come out of nowhere. And then I'm wondering, why am I the common denominator in a lot of these situations? It's kind of interesting. Many of you are like, hey, I'm competitive with you too. That's why I needed this message so much. All right, so there's competition. And then there's this envy. And envy's a little more subtle because envy isn't so much like you want to beat people and things, but you still do want to beat them. You're just playing the comparison game. And you're envying people because you think they're here and you're trying to get there. You're like, I want what they have. That's what envy is. It's you looking at somebody's life and saying, they have something I want and I want to get there. And envying can be really, really negative. It's a lot more subtle than being a competitive person, but if you're envious of somebody, it's the same kind of stuff. I just read a story of a 73-year-old dude, and this guy held a 50-year grudge on one of his classmates. All right, one of the classmates did a prank on him. It was actually one of my favorite pranks back in the day, so I kind of related to it. But for 50 years, this guy's been holding a grudge, and he's a grandfather now, and he just murdered the guy because of it. Just murdered the guy, made the papers and everything, and they kind of were doing interviews with him, and he says, I've been envious, and I hated this guy for 50 years, and when I finally had my chance, I wanted to take his life. And that's what envy does. It can destroy us from the inside out because you see something somebody else has, or they did something to you, and you become envious, and you're just like, it kind of eats you up from the inside out. So here's what verse 26 is really saying, and maybe just kind of think about it, see if this is you. It's saying, don't let your hunger for honor, which we all have at times. We want honor. We want people to give us honor. Don't let your hunger for honor make you overly competitive or envious. Don't let your hunger for honor make you overly competitive or envious. Now, is there anybody in your life, think about this. You don't have to say anything to the person next to you, but is there anybody in your life that you're envious of right now? Is there anybody that has something you're like, I wish I had that? Maybe it's a friend and they have the boyfriend that you want. Maybe it's a friend and they have the body that you want. Maybe it's a friend and it seems like they have the nice car and you're driving mom's station wagon, I was always envious of that when I was growing up because I had a kind of a beater of a car. And so is there things in your life that you're envious of? And it can be all kinds of different things. And I think that's what Paul is talking about here, this conceit. It's deeper than just a person that thinks they're beautiful. It goes into this envy and it goes into this competitiveness. And this is a gospel issue. Here's why this matters to us. This is a gospel issue because it's rooted back into Galatians. It goes back to us trying to prove our self-righteousness. What happens is when we try to seek honor, what we're really saying is, I need to prove how righteous I am to other people. That way they'll give us honor. And then we try to do the same thing with God. We try to do good, do enough good, so we think God will love us more. And that's what we're trying to do with people too. We're trying to get them to honor us, and we're craving honor, and it goes back to the whole self-righteousness that the book of Galatians is talking about. So it's a gospel issue, and it's a really, really big issue. C.S. Lewis said this, Humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. And I think that's really important because both people here, there's a person who's superior and there's a person who's inferior. They're both trying to gain an identity by beating and surpassing others. One of them does it real outward, and one of them does it inwardly because they're always comparing themselves with others. So here's some questions to think about if you maybe have a problem with this. Do I tend to pick arguments with people, or do I completely avoid confrontation? One of them is more the aggressive approach, and one of it's the more envious approach. Do I have a tendency to blow up or clam up? Do I tend to get down on and point out the sins of others? Oh, ouch. Some of us, that could be painful. Or am I more intimidated around other people? When criticized, do I get very angry and very judgmental, or do I get discouraged and very defensive? And then do I often think, this is a big one in churches, I would never do that. Like what that person did, I can't believe they did that. Or are you on the other extreme where I could never accomplish? Like those people up there that were singing and leading, they're so amazing. I could never do that. So that's kind of how it subtly works out into our life. And in the gospel, it creates a whole new self-identity for us. Because the gospel, it humbles me before anyone because it shows me that I'm a sinner in need of grace. But it also emboldens me before anybody because it shows me that, you know what? The only person's eyes in this universe that really matter are God's eyes. And in God's eyes, like Tucker was saying, I'm loved unconditionally. I'm loved. And so it's a humbling, but it emboldens me at the same time, and it chases away that conceit in our life. And what this really shows us is we don't have to chase after honor with one another. See, the gospel frees us of this. We can just be real with one another. I hope this is a really freeing message because you don't have to try to get honor from each other. You don't have to try to get honor from me, not that you would care. I don't have to try to get honor with you. And this was kind of humbling to me because I looked at my life and I'm like, you know what, there's a lot of times when I'm joking around and I'm competitive, but there's a lot of times when I'm competitive because I want honor. I want somebody's honor. And what this passage does in Galatians, it frees us up just to be real. We don't have to come in here and fake and try to get people's honor and try to get people to like us. We can just be real and genuine with one another. And we can just say, you know what? I don't have to try to get your honor. I can just be who I am, and we can be real with one another. And I hope that's an encouragement to you. Well, some of you know this, but if you don't, the Bible didn't come with chapters and verses. Okay, that kind of came a little later, and chapters and verses were put in. So the thoughts in Galatians 5 actually flow right into Galatians 6, but sometimes it's confusing because it's like, oh, it's a new chapter, so it's really a new thought. It isn't, though. And so as we look at Galatians 6, 1 and 2, I don't know if that's there. There it is. Brothers, if anyone is caught in a transgression, or your version might say sin, you who are spiritual should restore him in a spirit of gentleness. If anyone is caught in a transgression, you who are spiritual should restore him in a spirit of gentleness. Now, here's what we just talked about. It's all the same issue because it's kind of flowing down. It's moving down in these next verses. If you have conceded superiority when somebody's caught in a sin, what are you going to do? You're going to be like, oh, I'd never do that. Sucks to be you. Sorry about that. Sorry you're so sinful and I have my act together. That's what conceded superiority does. And conceded inferiority, it might even cause you to envy. Well, man, they're doing that. I kind of want to do that. They're kind of caught in this sin, and that sin might be okay. Or you value that person so much, and you want them to like you so much. Here's what you do. I could never confront them on this because, man, I want them to value me. I want honor from them. And if I ever confronted them on their sin, oh, man, that would be really risky. I don't want to lose that friendship. I don't want to lose that honor because I need it myself. And so that's sometimes what happens with this. And so the word caught here, as it's used in Galatians, it's really a sinful pattern. It's something that we see in somebody's life or in our own life that just keeps happening. It keeps taking place. It's a pattern. It's kind of a cycle. Keep getting trapped in it. And I love this verse about sin. Sin will take you farther than you want to go, keep you longer than you wanted to stay, and cost you more than you're willing to pay. That's what sin does in our lives. We don't even realize how embedded sometimes sin is in our lives. And it's there. And so what this verse is saying, you who are spiritual, as somebody who's spiritual, go to that person. That's kind of our responsibility. We're supposed to go to them. And then how are we supposed to do it? Paul shows us how we're supposed to do it. He says, restore them gently. Now, if you look up these words in the Greek, what it actually means a surgeon or doctor kind of taking two bones and just gently taking these bones that are broken and putting them together. That's what the word restore means. So when we go to somebody, because of the gospel, we care about them so deeply. And because we care about them so deeply, we're not worried whether they honor us or not, because we don't need the honor. It's a gospel issue. And so we say, I love you so much that I can't let you keep doing this sin because I know what it's going to do in your life. So I need to call you on it, but I'm going to do it so gently, just like a surgeon kind of putting two bones together. That's how gently we're supposed to confront one another. And so it's not out of any kind of, I have it all together. It's just based on, man, I want to help this person. See, I had somebody that did the opposite in my life. I was kind of a new Christian. I wasn't like a lot of you guys that grew up in the church. And so I worked at this Christian camp. And this girl, Wendy, she always kind of found the need to confront me. I was always the dude I was a lot more outgoing than I am now. I talked all the time. And I constantly put my foot in my mouth. I said really rude things. I said really dumb things. And was always offending people. I mean, I was leaving relational train wrecks everywhere, every conversation. And I felt great about every conversation, but the other people weren't feeling very great. So Wendy would come up to me just pretty much every day of this camp and, hey, Dan, you said this, and it really offended me. And I was just like, I was all new to this. I'm like, oh, man, I'm sorry you're offended. And then like the next day, hey, you did this again. And it really offended me. And I was like, gosh, man, and I was really feeling bad. But then this started happening every single day. And then it started to be, Dan, you looked at me this way, and that offended me. Dan, I saw you laugh when somebody said this, and that offended me. And she was getting offended about everything under the sun. You know, your writing skills, you know, they offended me. Just like anything I did offended this person, you know. And I was just like, this is ridiculous. And finally, I said to her, you know what, I don't care. I mean, after like a month of getting confronted all the time, I'm like, I don't care if I'm offending you anymore because you're not offended about serious things at all. These are just little things, and you're just using it to kind of feel better about yourself spiritually. And it was one of those things where I would see her coming, and I would just try to like find the quickest exit, like just to get out anywhere because I knew what was coming. And then after I had my little conversation with her, I don't think she ever confronted me again. But that's not what this is talking about. It's not talking about that kind of restoring. That isn't restoration. And there's a lot of people in churches that they just want to confront for the fun of it because it gives them a sense of power. It gives them a sense of, I'm more spiritual than you are. That's not what we're talking about here. I love this one verse in Psalm 119. It says, blessed are those who are not easily offended. And man, I think in the church, that's how we should all be. We should have some thick skin and not be easily offended. But this word restore here, it's talking about something so much deeper than that. It's talking about when you see somebody in sin, it's up to us to care about them enough. Because of the gospel, we care about them so deeply that we want to restore them. We don't want to see them stuck in sin. We want to restore them. Here's what I'm willing to bet, because I have it in my life. You guys have some friends in your life right now you're thinking of that you need to restore. You have some friends that you know they're taking steps. They're caught in something. And they are taking steps. They're kind of walking close to the edge of something. And you can see them going to the edge. And you're the person God has put in their life to stop them. And some of you, the thing that is holding you back, the thing that's keeping you from doing it is you don't want to lose honor within that friendship. You don't want to lose, you think if I confront them, if I call them out on this, it's going to create a problem. The gospel compels every single one of us to love that person enough that we go to them gently and say, I love you. And because I love you, I don't want to see you step into this sin. I don't want to see you get entrapped by this again. That's what the gospel compels us to do. I read this article about this book. It's called Over the Edge, and it's Death in the Grand Canyon. I don't know if you guys realize this. There's over 700 people that have died in the Grand Canyon since the 1800s, which is kind of an interesting fact. And a lot of people die in plane crashes. over the Grand Canyon. They're like looking, oh, look at that view, and then the plane goes down. A lot of people like were rafting in it, and like a flash flood will come and take the boat all the way down the stream. People die like that. But you know what the author did? Because he went through every death that's taken place that they know of at the Grand Canyon. A lot of people die from just kind of stepping too close to the edge. And so what happens is they'll kind of get close to the edge of the Grand Canyon, and they'll do one of these things like, oh, look, I'm falling, and they fall, and they actually die. It just happened last year. A dad was kind of doing this with his daughter. His 12-year-old daughter was there, and he was like, look, and he kind of like jumped from one section to another, and he was like, oh, look, I'm falling, and he tripped and fell right over, and his daughter was there watching him do it. And I think what happens in our lives, we have friends that we see them. They're like right on the edge. And like we aren't doing anything about it. Like they're entangled in something. They need our help. And some of us are like, well, man, I'm going to pray for you. No. That's great that you're praying for them, but you can do way more than that. You need to go to them and restore them gently. Restore them like Galatians is talking about, because you care about them so deeply. You just want to restore them. You want to see them get back in their relationship with God. You don't want to see them fall off that cliff because you know that's where the sin is going to end up taking them. And so that's what we want to do. And we don't want to do it this morning. We want you guys, as we're going into our prayer time, just to kind of think about in your life, is there a friend that I need to really do more than just praying for, but I want to make a commitment today, and I want to actually get prayer with one of the leaders about, I want to help restore this person. Like I see them in some stuff. And I want to help them get restored. So we're going to have our leaders come up. If you're a leader here, we want you to come up and stand up here. And guys, what we want you to be able to do, this is just going to be a normal part of things around here. We want you to just, if you have prayer needs about anything, we want you to be able to come forward and just grab one of our leaders and pray. Maybe it's stuff at home right now isn't going very well. Maybe you're just thinking, you know what? I'm a really competitive person. I got issues like Dan, and I just need somebody to pray with. Well, come on up, and we can pray together, because I'll tell you what God's done with me this week as I've been working on this message. And maybe you're like, I'm just a really envious person. I envy people all the time. And you know what? It's killing me spiritually because I'm always envying people. Then come up and get some prayer about it. And maybe it's just something else going on in your personal life you need to talk to somebody about. We want you to know we're here, and we want to create an authentic group here. We don't have to play any games that we have it all together, because none of us have it all together. So you can just be real. And so as Michael and the team are leading you guys, if you feel like you want prayer for anything, come up. Be honest, be authentic. Come up and get some prayer with somebody. All right.